This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Right, I guess with that, I will proceed. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order, as extended on June 15, 2021, with the governor's signing of Senate Bill number 2475, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, this meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information in the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found below. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the City of Easthampton website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Should an interruption occur in which the meeting ends abruptly, the meeting will not be restarted and all agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. It is 6:01. I will now call to order the March 14th, 2022 meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. Are there any public concerns or non-agenda items?
I haven't received any, but I do see two people here. I don't know who they are. Hal Weeks, if you have any comments or public concerns you wanted to raise. Otherwise, if you're just here for an item, that's fine.
No, I don't, ma'am.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, struggling with mute. No, I don't have any comments to offer.
Okay, thank you. And then I have a phone number 413 ends in 781. I don't know if you had any comments or if you're here for an item. Well, I haven't had anyone reach out to me directly, so
Great.
might be okay.
Let's move on to public hearings and meetings. Public hearing continued from February 28th, 2022. The agenda says 2021.
Well, I continued it from the last meeting each time. Yeah. It would just say 2021. Oh Lord. Yeah. Okay, I'll fix that.
That's okay. Next time. Notice of intent filed by Lathrop Community Inc. at 100 Facetbook Drive, map 104, lot 2 for improvements to existing trail network. Mass DEP file number 1510315. This request was filed on 6/14/2021. Cassie?
They'd like to request a continuance yet again.
All right. Our next meeting is March 28th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Is there a motion to continue?
A motion to continue to March 28th.
Is there a second? Motion seconded. All in favor? Roll call vote. August?
Aye.
Fusa?
Aye.
Buttrick?
Aye.
Wait, Ryan?
Aye.
Whittemore?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Cassie, are there any items we should consider taking out of agenda order because people are waiting?
Yes, I'd like to take the item for the latest Ferry Street project, which is item 7U, just because we got them started last meeting. Figured we'll finish them up first.
Yeah. All right. Motion to take agenda item 7U out of order.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Roll call vote. August?
Aye.
Fusa?
Aye.
Buttrick?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Whittemore?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 7U, City of Easthampton, 1 Industrial Lofts, 1 Ferry Street, Mass DEP file number 1510317 for slope grading, vegetation management, and stormwater basin, maps 131 and 135, lots 1, 2, and 250. Is there someone here to represent this item?
Yes. Hello, everyone. This is Ryan Nelson from R. Levesque Associates, representing the applicant and Mike Michon for the project. I believe last time we reviewed this project, there were some pre-construction items that were still outstanding. So we have submitted those and open to discuss any questions or any concerns you might have before things get started out there.
Cassie, can you summarize the pre-construction submittals that have been?
Yeah, so there are, the ones that were still outstanding are the invasive species management plan. There was an item to be added to the final construction plan, a note about having added erosion sedimentation controls around the drain of the basin. And then there also was a matter of reviewing the long-term operations and maintenance plan. Those are the outstanding items.
Okay. All right, and the commission's been provided with these items?
Yeah, I attached them to the ongoing meeting document page.
Can you share them in turn?
Yes. Let's see, Ryan, do you have a preference with one we start with? I have the open.
I guess let's start with the plan first.
Okay. I can share my screen here. Hold on just a second. Okay. So like I said, the main note was in making sure there was a call out to have erosion sedimentation controls around the drain at the center of the basin to be installed. And it says proposed silt fence and straw wattle for drain inlet protection. Okay. And then there's also, this was discussed at the last meeting, was a change in the erosion and sedimentation controls throughout the rest of the site, adding them here and in the opening. This is all just concrete down here. The slope comes down, maintaining the controls along the top of the slope over the actual inlet to the canal, and then continuing them along here.
Correct.
Okay. Any comments from the commission?
I just say that I've missed a bunch of meetings lately, so I'm not 100% up to speed on this project. I'll probably just abstain instead of voting.
Makes sense. Right.
Is that have they been extended where we asked? I'm having a hard time reading the different line types.
Let's see, proposed rubber wattles for erosion controls. It's this line here with the circles, and it kind of goes along. There's a big wall here in this section, and then there's like a path that goes over the canal. It's like a concrete bridge almost. And so we're just extending it to connect to this continuance of the wall here. These are the above the canal, and on the side here are the original proposed silt fencing from the earlier plan.
And what is a rubber wattle? I'm not familiar with that.
If I can add, it's a recyclable or recycled rubber that's blown into a kind of a mesh netting, the same as a straw wattle. And in this case, it's being placed on a concrete surface, so you can't stake it in like you would a normal straw wattle. And it's much heavier, so it'll stay in place as opposed to a light straw wattle that would move around on top of the concrete.
Is there any risk of the rubber escaping through the mesh and into the canal?
I don't think so. It's a very heavy duty woven fabric. They're made for, pretty heavy use in construction sites. And it's not like, it doesn't have visible openings that you would think of if you see a straw wattle. It's a much finer woven mesh.
Is anyone else actually familiar with what those look like and where they're used?
I don't think I've ever seen those used on a site. Are they?
I can give me 1 second. I can pull up the brand name.
Thanks.
I mean, I guess the question might be, you see wattles like crushed and torn open with the compost spilling out a lot. Are they that much heavy duty, or that doesn't happen with these?
So a name is Crush, KRUSH, Crush Rubber Erosion Controls. Let's see if I can share my screen.
Oh, here, hold on. Okay, you're a co-host now, so you should be able to.
Okay. I don't know if everyone can see that. It's a longer sandbag, a more linear sandbag pretty much, but it's filled with heavier recycled rubber.
Are you using these so you can move them easier?
Yeah, so they would stay in place because right now that gap in the retaining walls for that bridge over the canal, there'd be no way of staking a hay bale or a straw wattle into the ground since it's concrete. So these would be heavy and they would just be resting on the surface.
Okay.
I guess I would say I don't have an objection to, newer versions of things we're familiar with. I think it would just be, if it, for whatever reason, chooses to not be the most effective product for the site, we would just want to see the SWIP maintained. So that would mean switching gears.
Okay.
I don't know how others feel about that, but
Makes sense.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions about the construction drawing plan?
Nope.
Okay, then the next item was we can go, Ryan, I don't know if you have preference, but we can go to the operation maintenance plan or the invasive species plan.
Sure, whatever, doesn't matter to me, whatever's easiest.
O&M it is, so hold on just a second. Oh. So let's see.
Right, so this identifies the components that could over time lead to troubles on site, whether it's stormwater related or the slope. So this provides, kind of a baseline inspection schedule and maintenance schedule and what that would entail for all the components such as the yard drain and the subsurface piping, making sure the vegetated slope isn't getting gullies and being undermined or eroded over time.
is there any specificity about, for the, quarterly makes sense if it's 4 times a year, but is there, for things that occur once a year, is there a time of year requirement for that?
We didn't specify a time of year, no. I guess we'd be open to whatever makes the most sense.
Does anyone have any thoughts or suggestions, or is that something we would normally leave to the discretion of the property owner?
Just maybe it needs to be spread out over the year.
I would say typically, well, if you're doing it twice, you usually want to do it after snow melt and in the early or in the fall when leaves are falling. And in this case, I think probably if you're doing it once a year, the most appropriate would likely be in the late fall after leaves and things have fallen.
I agree with that. That makes sense.
Could we just add another caveat to the table regarding the once per year?
Yep, we can
Events
add
shall
that.
be conducted before the end of fall.
Sure. Yep, that's easy.
Thank you.
Okay. Are people ready for me to scroll on? Sorry, is that okay?
I was ready.
Okay, cool.
I don't know about others.
All right, so this list just goes through the best management practices ongoing, and that really applies to all sites, whether it's trash or washing vehicles, storage of fertilizers, herbicides, any potentially hazardous chemicals.
Any comments from the commission on this page?
Do we have reason to expect vehicle washing on site based on the end uses that are planned?
No.
Not sure who chimed in, but I don't think in this area for this project, that's not going to be an intended use.
I don't know if it matters, but it might be worth tailoring the list a bit to things that actually are applicable.
You're referring to item B in particular here, Julie?
B in particular, I'm not sure if I guess some of the others might apply, things like hazardous chemicals, at certain times they might apply, but I think that they're probably not going to be generalized uses on the site. So B may be the only one that's really unlikely. Will there be somewhere that fertilizers and herbicides and things are being stored on site, or would that be? I imagine
no.
it's more likely you'd have a landscaper coming in from offsite, right?
These are more just to make sure the property owner is aware of, sensitive items. Not to say that, they're going to be used or these activities are going to occur, just to make, the owner aware that washing your vehicles has a potential to impact the canal, and storage of fertilizers has the impact to affect, certain things, but we're not advocating that these are going to happen.
I don't feel strongly about it either way. If others don't, it may be more likely that the plan would be followed if it was short and sweet and stuck to what was actually relevant for the intended uses, but it may be that that's also not realistic.
Would it be preferable if we asked to have it tailored down? Like more specifics? As far as the proper storage, if there is pesticides or paints on site, or where the trash bins will be? So there's no overflow of trash or garbage. Do we need that?
I don't think so. Not for this project. This is maybe for the overall Ferry Street project, which is a separate file number, but this is just for the slope clearing and the drainage improvements at the rear of the site.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any more comments? Where did we end up with tailored versus general? I don't think there, how many other O&M items are there in this list? It's a one-page list. I see the point about tailoring it. But this isn't, this is for the facility management, building management to adhere to, not the occupants. Is that correct? Am I understanding there?
Yes, correct.
So I think it's overall, it's a pretty succinct document as it stands. If folks don't feel terribly strongly about revising it further, then I think we can consider accepting it and moving on to the next item or topic.
I'm fine with
Yes,
that.
no? Okay. Others? Any other comments before we look at the invasive species plan?
I'm good.
Is there a date on the cover or a version on to this plan?
Yes, at the very bottom,
Very bottom.
revised.
Revised 3.3. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. So we are accepting, we would be at the end of this accepting the 3.3/2022 version.
Okay. All right, then the last item is the invasive species management plan.
Okay.
So
Was
this,
the long-term, sorry, can I go back for a second?
yeah, go ahead.
Was the long-term operation and maintenance plan supposed to include maintenance of the plantings? If this is for the slope specifically?
We had not included that in the list, no.
I guess that was a question for the commission. Is that really what the intent of this inspection and maintenance program was supposed to be?
I thought it was primarily for the drainage structure.
The stormwater management itself and not the slope.
Does that? Do you still want to move on, or what do you think?
If it was for the drainage structure, then yeah, I just couldn't remember what we had actually requested.
Okay, so in summary, the invasive plant species management plan goes through how the contractor is to cut or remove the plants. So in this case, where the logistics is going to proceed where the contractor would cut all the vegetation. It's going to be removed off-site. Any of the invasive plant species that will be cut will be stored separately and moved off-site and disposed of properly. Because this project involves a fill over the slope, likely any remaining shoots or roots would potentially be smothered. If they do reemerge, we're proposing that spot treatments of herbicide be applied. And then that would repeat as necessary during the growing months until they're eradicated along the slope.
So under B1,
Mhm.
limit all disturbance to controlled areas where only invasive plant species are present. Does that describe any aspect of the site?
I don't have a good inventory of exactly where those are or where exactly the most problem areas of that slope are. I guess the intent of that statement was to only remove the roots of problem areas. So there wouldn't be a need to remove roots of vegetation that wasn't invasive.
So selective removal, I guess the way I read that, and I can be reading that entirely wrong, but I'm reading that as, being specific to areas where only invasive species are present. I'm just not picturing that in my mind.
Yeah, I guess maybe wasn't the best wording. They're obviously within the whole limit of work will be disturbed, but I guess root disturbance would be limited to removing the invasive species.
I see. Could we consider revising that to clarify that the only plant species to be removed by their roots are those that are considered invasives?
I'll double check with the applicant, Mike Meechan, on that, just to see what his game plan was before I speak to that, but we can definitely revise that so it's more clear.
Thanks.
So am I understanding that the intent is that they're actually going to disentangle the bittersweet from the other plants that it's wrapped around in order to properly dispose of it?
Yes, it would likely have to be, yes, cut up and untangled, yes.
And is there, I have not had a chance to look at this plan previously, but is there a long-term control plan? Because one treatment on large stems of bittersweet is not likely to kill it.
So we just have a general statement that, in the following growing seasons, it's to be inspected, the site would be inspected and herbicides applied as necessary.
Melissa, it's Mike. So this is not tailored to this particular site. This is boilerplate wording.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Is this just boilerplate language here?
I mean, it's similar to most order condition related requirements, but we do tailor each one to the site the best we can.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone recall from the site visit what other invasives are on site? So that we know whether the treatment proposed here makes sense for those species.
Well, the most recent site visit, it was winter time, so it was hard for me to ID the plants that were there. And then I don't know if anyone else remembers from the earlier site visits that were done. I want to say it was still kind of like fall, winter time, I think, when we did those ones too, maybe. If I can't remember correctly, I can go back and see. We can look at site visit photos too, if you guys want.
Did we ask to have them identify the different invasive species?
From my memory, I remember Oriental bittersweet being the primary one. I don't recall any others, but they could be there.
I suspect, just thinking of the area, I suspect you probably have garlic mustard. There might have been some knotweed on that slope. If there was, that would be evident still. And it would have shown up in pictures. I don't know if there's swallowwort there, but there very likely could be. And those would all have different treatments than what's proposed here. So I guess my point in short is that we need a better understanding of what's actually on site to be able to know if this is an appropriate plan.
Is that something that can be revisited during the growing season? Obviously, I don't think quite right now we'd be able to see everything, but.
No, I don't think you'd be able to see the herbaceous species at this time of year. Not with any confidence. Julie, what do you think?
I mean, in a couple weeks you will, but not right now.
Right.
What is the intended timeline for clearing the slope?
They'd like to do it as soon as they can while the ground is somewhat still hard. That is waning, but now is obviously the easier time too with without any leaves.
So maybe the appropriate plan would be to treat the bittersweet as described, and then to have a more detailed follow-up for documenting anything that comes up on a particular timeline, and an outline then for how to treat that.
That would make sense.
Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
That sounds like a good way to approach it.
Okay. Deborah, Michael, Dan, anything else you'd like to add?
If they do identify knotweed or anything else, then we can then ask to have them remove it and dispose of it the proper way for those specific species.
I think we'd look for the plan to be revised to address the additional species and their species-specific management techniques.
Yes.
So to that end, and similarly with the previous, is there a revision date or other mark associated with this document?
No, I don't have a date on it, but I could add one.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful moving forward, just given the approach we're taking here.
Sure.
Okay. So were there any other items on the pre-filing side of things, Cassie?
No, that was it. I do want to either get photos sent to me of the different erosion control layout just set up, or I can stop by once they are set up and just get the pictures myself, just to confirm that they're in place. Because I haven't been back to the site since that first meeting. I don't know, Ryan, have they been installed yet, or I don't know if you know.
I don't know as of this week. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Cassie, if that's something you could schedule a site visit for in person, I think that would be good, especially since it's a newer to the commission, I should say, barrier.
Sure, yeah, I
That
can do that.
would be great.
So I just want to make sure I have my understanding correct. Are we saying that, does the commission need to see, there's some changes requested for the operations maintenance plan, adding that caveat, and then also for this invasive species management plan, do we need to see that? Do you guys all need to see it again in another meeting before they can go forward, or can I just wait until I receive them and make sure that those changes are in there? Or
I would say I'm comfortable with you receiving them per those specific changes, but if those changes aren't made, then I would suggest that needs to be addressed by the larger group.
okay, and then set up the site visit as well.
How do others feel about that?
Sounds fine.
All right. All right.
For
So I
the-
think, yes,
For
sorry.
the sake of whoever may be doing this work, I recall that there was extensive poison ivy in here, so they'll want to take proper precautions when they are disentangling the bittersweet from the other plant material,
Okay, we'll let them know. Thank you.
because it's just as dangerous before it leaves out and is unrecognizable.
Sure, whoever gets that lucky task will.
Wouldn't want it to be me.
All right. All right. So thank you for taking the time to talk through these things with us, and you'll get those modified documents to Cassie, and hopefully we'll see the results of that site visit soon.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item I wanted to take is item, let's see, for the 6973 Loudville Road project, item 7L, and I believe Ryan is here for that item as well.
Oh, okay. All right, so is there a motion to take agenda item 7L out of agenda order?
I'll make a motion, to take 7L out of order.
Second,
All right, roll call vote. August?
Aye.
Yusa?
aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Whittemore?
I,
Motion carries. Agenda item 7L, R. Levesque Associates Inc., 69 and 73 Loudville Road, Mass DEP file number 1510309 for a new 18-unit housing development, maps 140 and 139, lots 28, 29, and 11. Good evening.
Hi, everyone. Ryan Nelson from R. Levesque Associates again. I believe this is a similar matter. We'll be discussing outstanding pre-construction items. So Cassie, I'm not sure which one you wanted to go over first or which concerns you had.
Okay, so one of the things that we talked about just need to be confirmed was the landscaping plan. You did include a landscaping plan, I believe, in the original notice of intent filing. And I think it might be as simple as just confirming that that hasn't changed, or do you have a plan to present?
That has not changed.
Okay, does the commission want to see that again, or do you feel like?
If it hasn't changed and we already approved it, no.
Okay, all right, cool. All right. Let's see, the next item was this is another shorter one. There's a request to install the permanent monuments after construction, not before construction. The way that the order of conditions is written and worded, it wants them to be installed, like the actual monuments installed as a pre-construction requirement. The commission did approve already the monument installation plan in the design, but they haven't been installed yet. And the reasoning behind that is because there's a lot of grading associated with this work, and so they could get lost or graded over. So it might make sense, if the commission's okay with it, to have that be required to be in place as a post-construction requirement.
And there's a continuous erosion control perimeter barrier
Yes.
demarcating the limits of work.
Yes, they're one and the
Yeah.
same in this project.
Yeah, then I don't personally have a problem with them being installed following grading and site stabilization as a requirement that they be installed prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance. How do others feel?
I'm good with it.
Okay, cool.
Anyone else? Okay.
Then the next thing would be the invasive species and management plan, which I can share my screen again. So this is again for 6973 Loudville. That's the intro. We can start here, I guess.
Sure. So during our time on site, during delineating and surveying, I didn't really come across any notable problem areas. So this plan is more geared towards, future upkeep should invasive species present themselves during or after construction activities. And it follows pretty much the same basis. Invasive plant species that are identified would be cut, removed off site, and then any remaining shoots, trunks, or sprouts would be given a spot application of herbicide as necessary.
who is proposed to be going through and doing that work?
We don't have someone specified just yet, but prior to the applicant would provide the commission with the contractor's information and who would be doing the work and what their qualifications are.
Because there's going to be sort of a wholesale clearing and grubbing of large areas of this site, correct?
That's correct, yes.
It seems unlikely that there would be no invasives in there. And it seems like you would need to send someone through to identify what needs to be removed and disposed of, because your contractor doing the grubbing probably isn't going to know that as they're clearing.
I guess we run into a similar situation where it'd be starting work prior to leaf out conditions, so all of the potential species may not be noticed.
Anything that's woody, though, that's already emerged
true,
would be
yes.
recognizable by someone who knows what they're looking for.
That's true for woody plants, yes.
Could we go to the long-term elements of the plan? What is the duration? I don't recall the specifics of this order.
Item number C says invasive plant species shall be managed during the construction process and shall continue after construction has been completed in compliance with any issuance by the Easthampton Conservation Commission.
Time frame, periodically, twice per year. Cassie, do you have the order handy? Just wondering was this an in perpetuity sort of requirement or for a certain period of time?
Hold on just a second, I got it pulled up here.
Thank you.
There is a in perpetuity requirement that says invasive plant species, only non-invasive, oh no, wait, here we go. Sorry, this is one I want to read. Invasive plant species monitoring and management. Continued monitoring and management of non-native and or invasive plant species shall be conducted on site to prevent the spread of non-native and or invasive plant species within the project area, including but not limited to the stormwater basin. This condition shall survive the expiration of this order and shall be included in the continuing condition in perpetuity on the certificate of compliance.
In perpetuity then, okay. Thank you. All right, then I think twice per year is sufficient in the plan since the order is specific.
Do we want to have specified that it should be by some sort of qualified individual? Or is that there and I'm not seeing it?
Ryan, are there qualifications set forth in an earlier part of this document?
Oh, Ryan, you're muted. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, sorry about that. No, we did not have any specifications stated.
It seems to me that that's something we would want to specify.
Mhm.
I would also like to see for this site, since we don't know what's currently there, that whenever this initial, maybe the first two reviews that they're doing after things begin to grow back, that there was some sort of documentation of what does arise and a specific plan made to deal with those species appropriately, because again, cutting by hand is not necessarily the correct approach for all invasives, and that's the only approach identified here.
Okay, yep, we can revise this to be more of a, I guess, an open-ended dynamic in the future, depending on what's found.
Okay, so there's a revision pending to address that. Are there any other comments from commissioners at this point?
I also think that something, there needs to be, if we want to dispose of invasive material appropriately in the initial grubbing, that needs to have a more clear plan as well as to how it's going to be identified and sorted out. Otherwise, they're just going to go in and clear everything and it'll be in one pile.
Okay, we can further specify that.
Similarly, is there a revision date on the cover of this document? And if there's not, can we add one as well?
Sure. Yep,
Just
we'll
for
add
use
one.
of reference. Excellent. Okay. Cassie, are there any other pre-construction items to address tonight?
Yes, there are others if you guys are ready. So, well, I guess this one,
We did that.
Ryan, you had said that you guys had already collected data regarding whether or not a breakout barrier was necessary in the infiltration basin. And I don't know if the commissioners remember, this is something during the hearing process where we actually put in a condition that there needs to be more data collected to determine whether or not a breakout barrier is required for the infiltration basin, because there was concern about horizontal flow, like if the water coming through potentially could meet some kind of barrier and then be flowing towards these towards the brook area and potentially cause undermining potentially to happen. So I didn't know if you had, this wasn't like a pre-construction requirement for them to start the project at all, but it is required before they start the construction of the basin. So I was hoping maybe we could get it squared away now if you have that information, Ryan.
Sure. So I believe the condition asked to verify whether or not groundwater was present 4 feet from the bottom of the basin. And we already have test pit data that was collected during the design phase. And that was included in the stormwater report on the original filing. And in the location of the proposed basin, it was all sand with no groundwater encountered to greater than 10, 11 feet. So I can resend those test pit data logs if you need them, but they were included in the original submittal. So I think that condition of requiring to verify soil conditions, prior to construction it's not a problem. It's not going to change, but that information is already there. But we can certainly look again prior to construction when the machines are there.
Cassie, at the risk of complicating things for both this and the previous project, and I think it's something that the commission could address very specifically in discussion in the record. Don't we have a standard condition that prohibits the use of herbicides, pesticides?
So we have the in perpetuity condition, which I believe is pretty much included in all the orders that we issue. Pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and fertilizers should not be used within the 100-foot buffer zone. Organic pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides and fertilizers may be used subject to the review and approval of the commission.
Okay. I would say that an approved invasive species management plan qualifies as that.
Okay.
So we're not backing anyone into a corner and we can just leave it as is.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Buttrick, do you have any comments regarding the breakout barrier discussion? Any further comments?
No, I don't remember that in particular. It makes sense that the soils are sandy underneath the basin, given that they're relatively close to the slope.
Okay. All right, so,
Sandy and dry, I should say.
all right. Cassie, I think we've gone through those 4 items. All right. Are there any other items to discuss for this location project?
The only other thing that was submitted, and we can review it if you guys want, it was the final construction drawings. And that has been updated since the NOI, but they did come to before the commission for a change. You all remember they reoriented some of the buildings. So I don't know if you guys want to see it again, or if you feel.
If we've already reviewed it.
And Ryan, there aren't any other changes that have been made since, correct?
Rob, are you still on? I don't know if you, I saw you were working with Matt earlier today. If you could speak to any of those last minute changes, if there were any. I'm not sure where he went, but it was the monumentation plan, and we had updated the drainage plan, adding some foundation curtain drains around some of the units due to the groundwater elevations.
And that was within the, obviously within the limits of disturbance that was
Yes.
previously approved.
Yes, the limit of work has stayed the same, so there's no new encroachments.
Okay.
Are we also supposed to be reviewing a landscaping plan according to the agenda?
I think there was no changes from the plan that was originally presented to the commission.
Okay.
Is that correct, Ryan?
That's correct. Landscaping has stayed the same.
Well, that was it on my end. So if the commission feels with, as long as I get those change documents, specifically the invasive species management plan, and it includes the changes requested, then I can go ahead and say it's good to go. Though I don't know if you, because one of the things you asked for was more details of the separation of the material during that grubbing process. Do you want to see that before, or you feel like I can email it to everyone, or I don't know what it would be appropriate?
I think if you email the document to commission members, we can review it individually and individually provide if there's any significant concerns. Without a reply all, we can provide you with that commentary.
Okay, great. Then I'll do that whenever you send it over to me, Ryan. So.
Okay, I have one more question, at least right now. This project, have we been provided with a copy of the SWIP, or is that pending?
We've received the SWIP as well. Yeah, we can.
And is that under the provisions of the 2022 CGP, or is that?
It was prepared under the old one. We had that completed before we were made aware of the updates, but you know, we'll get that converted over. I think the
May
deadline
18th.
is may next year, but we'll do it sooner.
No, it's May of this year.
Of this year? Okay,
It's
sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's 90 days. 90 days? No,
I think it's 90. That sounds right.
March, April, May. No, that is 90. It feels like May is so much later than that. Sorry. Okay, so Cassie, just as a heads up for this, and any project that has an open SWIP prior to February 17th, 2022, they are required to close out or come into alignment with the current CGP, which has some modifications to it, by May 18th of this year. So you should be seeing updated SWIPs
Okay, yeah, most of the projects that I've done site visits with recently, I've been throwing that out there, so.
Okay,
And people should have gotten emailed
Yes,
when they got them, from like the EPA
Mhm.
at some point, but yeah.
they
I'll
would have gotten that if their email address was associated with the ENOI.
Yeah.
So, okay, great. That's all.
Okay, great. And I don't think there's anything else for pre-construction requirements for this project now. So just pending receiving those items, Ryan, we'll go from there.
Okay, you'll get that probably tomorrow.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Yep, good night.
All right. There a motion, or do we have any need to take any other items out of agenda order at this time? Is anyone else here?
I didn't know if, it doesn't look like Russell is here or anyone from that was interested in the Echodale project. So if not, we can just go to regular order.
Okay, motion to resume regular agenda order.
Motion to resume regular order.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. August, Fusa,
I,
Buttrick. I'm sorry, Buttrick,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Whittemore.
Aye.
All right, Cassie, are there any? Doesn't appear that there are any enforcement action updates.
Oh, no updates yet. Just a note that the 18 Pine Street one we were supposed to revisit that in April. So
Okay.
It's on the horizon.
Excellent. If you want to add that to the updates as a reminder for the rest of us,
I could definitely do that.
that would be helpful. Okay. Open space updates. Echodale West Orchard area improvements.
Yeah, so I was able to meet with Jeff Bagg, the city planner, about this to just talk about, where it left off at the last meeting there was talk about potentially trying to form a working group and see like what is the path forward for new projects. We're currently working on the, vegetation management project right now and that tree removal aspect. But for new things, that would be we'd have to, develop a whole separate plan. The first note for the forming a working group is that we just need to make sure that we didn't establish quorum, or we could certainly if we wanted to, but that would involve, we'd have to post an agenda and do all the open meeting law requirements for that. So it can become a little easier if we can maintain no more than 2 commission members, either from the CONSCOM, or I know sounded like there was some agricultural commission members who were interested. So just kind of keeping that in mind for the formation of the group.
I would be in favor of 2 commission members and not, whoever wants to be engaged in that should have that discussion.
agreed.
And I don't know if we want to try to establish who that would be now, or if we want to wait, do we maybe more structured, have more ag commission people come?
I would say let's get a little more information about what that commitment is going to look like on the calendar, and then see, who from the commission. Maybe we'll even have a new member before that comes up, and we would want to, make that opportunity available.
Okay, cool. No, that makes sense to me too. And I can kind of ask Jeff about that. What is the time commitment? I've only ever been on one other working group, and that was for the solar ordinance. So I know some of the commissioners were on that, and it may be even less of a time commitment than that one was, but maybe similar as well. And then in terms of, just generally for future projects, things to keep in mind. The way I was thinking about it is there's kind of 3 types. There's large projects, and for large projects, you probably want to get support through grant funding. And then there's smaller projects that we could maybe develop ourselves, but would still want funding help through the CPA. Both of those projects, if we can have the cost be kept below $10,000, then the city's able to choose who they work with. It doesn't have to go out to bid, which sometimes can speed up the process and simplify it to a degree. And then also something to consider is, what is called out in the open space plan because sometimes if you're wanting to apply for grants, if it's supported by the open space plan, that action in some way, that can be really helpful in making the grant succeed and being chosen. And then, let's see, one of the things that he specifically mentioned was one good place to start if we have an idea for something, but it's like kind of a bigger project, is just getting a feasibility study done. And that's something that can usually be, developed for at least $10,000 or less than $10,000. And that kind of gives you a roadmap and makes it easier then to apply for grants or CPA funding. So sometimes if we're not sure which way it's going to go, feasibility study might be the first step that makes the most sense.
Mhm.
And then for much smaller projects, it sounds like there's a good potential for volunteers to help. So just kind of keeping that in mind too, like something really small, we don't have to seek any funding, and we could just have volunteers come and help. So one other thing that was touched upon at the last meeting was trying to create an accessible path, kind of like Mutter's Field.
Right.
And one thing to note for that is that if we want to meet ADA requirements, they're really specific, and we'd have to make sure we're in compliance with that. But there's other types of requirements too, or options, such as the Forest Service has an accessible trail designation that could be gone for, which is a little less stringent, but then you're not meeting the ADA requirements. So it's just something to consider.
What's usually involved in kind of identifying that you're meeting the ADA requirements? I picture that being survey, a lot. Actual surveyors setting out grade stakes and things of that nature. And are there design criteria that require a qualified professional's involvement? I guess I think it would be beneficial if the city started doing more with ADA accessible trails and features on open space. I just want to make sure we have an understanding of what we would need to bring to the table to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's for you, but my understanding is that it needs to be like reviewed by someone who would know that it is meeting those standards. I don't know if anyone else is more familiar with that process.
It has a lot to do with the grades and how long any sections over grade are, and whether they have appropriate railings and landing spaces and all of that. So you would need, I think, proper engineering design to make sure that you accomplished all of that. And you would certainly need some level of survey, whether it was possible to do it with existing LiDAR data or if you'd need detailed topo. I'm not sure. I'm guessing you'd need detailed topo.
And I'm pretty sure that's true also for the Forest Service designation. It's just less I don't know, but I think that there'd probably be a requirement if we were trying to get that designation as well. So that might be something that would make sense if we're going to go for trying to make an accessible path, either ADA or Forest Service. The feasibility study might really come into play there, just to show, I don't know, how to achieve those specific requirements.
Okay. Do the city's engineers have any knowledge in that?
They may. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I can ask them for sure.
Yeah. BAG might have past experience.
I can ask them.
Cassie, weren't you part of doing ADA evaluations for all the existing open space properties?
Yeah, I did do that, but I didn't do any measurement of like grades or things like that to see if they got designation. That I can show you the kind of sheet that I used, and that was more talking about signage, bathroom facilities, parking accommodations, things like that someone who's not an engineer like me can go to a site and immediately say, yeah, they're here or they're not.
I feel like a lot of our smaller, parcels that fall under conservation or open space because of the subdivision rules and requirements are so glaringly not ADA accessible that it's, a layperson can far more easily say with confidence.
Yeah, definitely. That was my experience for sure.
Okay. All right. So I guess the takeaway is you're gonna reach out to the Ag Commission and put a little more structure to what this working group commitment would entail, and then potentially reach out to the city planner or others to inquire about what we would need to do to achieve ADA compliance.
Yeah, and just, I don't know if people can say, but what kind of time and commitment would people be open to? Like maybe once a month? Have a little something zero, yeah. Yeah, but well, for those who may potentially even have some time, maybe every other month. There's not like a huge, I mean, it's a balance, it feels like to me, to wanting to maintain momentum, but then also there's not a rush either. So if people can only do every other month or whatever, or once a month.
I think in order to make progress, once a month is probably a good idea. Is that what we were doing for the solar ordinance?
I want to say that is, but it might have been potentially even more frequent sometimes.
It might have been every other week. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But something like that. I mean, that was helpful for keeping it moving. And Cassie, we could have people on this working group that were not on any boards, correct?
I would think that that's fine. I feel like I mentioned that during my discussion with Jeff, and he didn't say there was any issue with that. It's more just making sure that, we don't achieve quorum of either of the two
Right.
boards. I think that it is an interesting thing to consider. I think it's better to have more people on than less, but you don't have too many people, so you can never get anything decided. I don't know what like the appropriate number is. Again, you can look to the solar ordinance committee. I think it was.
I think that'd be a good idea to look to what's been effective in the past, and then maybe have a discussion about board representatives from existing boards, but then reaching out to the community.
Yeah,
I have
We
two
should have
people in mind that I think might be interested and would be good contributors to the ideas that we've tossed around so far.
Yeah, so maybe once I get these answers, what I'll do is I'll send an email just saying, soliciting, if you have people that you think might be interested, send me their contacts and I can start crafting something to reach out to everyone.
We should probably have at least one garden committee member on it. Is the garden committee still a subcommittee of us? Or not?
I think so.
But none of the garden committee members are members of the Conservation Commission.
Right.
Yeah, I think not. I think that they're not a subcommittee of us. I remember we got
Anymore?
a bill one time. It feels like 1,000 years ago. And it was by accident. And I sent it on to someone else that made sense to be sent to, but I can't remember. I can do a little digging.
That might be a good idea.
We definitely established them as a subcommittee of us and then allowed it to be populated with its own people. And we were getting the bills for a while, but then they stopped coming. And now I don't have any idea what's going on with the garden. But
Well, I think Laura Fisher at the last meeting mentioned, I feel like I remember her saying something about the garden committee and that there were people who were interested. So hopefully that connection is loosely made or easily formed.
So I would say if it's, if it's necessary to kind of manage the size of that working group, then maybe we should consider only one representative from Concom and one representative from Ag Commission. Especially if that would mean, broader participation, which could mean better engagement overall.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts about it or questions that came up since our last meeting or from this. That's all I got so far.
Oh, I'm okay. Anyone else ready to move on?
Ready to go.
All right. There are no updates on Lathrop. So Any other compliance updates on open permits that we have not already discussed? There was, this was interesting. Item 7O, City of Easthampton, DPW various locations, DEP file number 1510307. So this is their maintenance order of conditions, their for general routine activities.
Yeah.
So what is entail, what does lighting installation from, I'm assuming the ice rink is Lasone, along the, you know, path through the, you know, the crossing of upper and lower rubber thread ponds.
So
What does this entail?
this was from back in November. The commission reviewed a proposed project under the bundled order along the, and I can show you the resulting memo here in a second. Let me just find it. That they want to do is install some lights along there and basically along the bike path. So this picture is gonna be the best thing to show you. Hold on. The commission determined that it would cover under work category 3. I gotta reshare here.
I think, Melissa, you may not have been here that day.
That's possible.
I think that sounds possible.
So work in category 3 is applicable for proposed installation as long as best management practices are followed and appropriate erosion controls are utilized to properly protect the wetland resource areas during and after construction. So the plan, the best thing to see is this right along the path here. They're going to install it. And you can see it's within this area too. And so they had originally said they were either going to start right away after that was reviewed by the commission or in the spring, and now the spring is here. So they were reaching out saying like, hey, we're ready to get started. Like what do we need to do to check in? So I was planning to do a site visit, make sure the erosion controls are in place. Just kind of review everything again with them from the bundled order.
That sounds perfect.
Okay. All right, cool.
Okay, so next.
So next was from 50 Florence Road, the solar project. So I did a site visit on the 9th, March 9th, and there's a couple corrective actions that need to be taken. They haven't made it beyond, I don't know if y'all remember the plan, and I can show it if you like, but basically there's a first chunk of panels and then the road carries on and then there's more areas of panels. They haven't made it beyond the first area of panels. They barely started grading work there. The road construction has kind of just made it up to that area and stopped. And so beyond that, there's 2 more crossings. There was the first crossing, right, that they had to kind of change the plan for and put the slab on. I wanted them to add controls to all 3 crossings, essentially. There weren't enough, certainly at the other 2 that they haven't reached yet. And so I told them that the road construction cannot continue until those are updated. That's just simply like, it's just not enough. It's not right. So that's kind of where that's at. And then there was minor silt fencing corrections that needed, fixes that need to be made. They have a lot of animals jumping over the silt fence. And so they're kind of, it's just down in random small spots. And it's just going to be, that's going to be an ongoing thing that they're going to have to do, is just keep fixing the silt fence as animals fail to jump over them. And then that was pretty much it. Oh, and for the first crossing, I just wanted them to add more controls there along the top.
Okay. So do you have a follow-up site visit scheduled to confirm the installation of supplemental erosion controls? What's the plan there?
So not yet. I'm in, my follow-up email to them. I was like, let me know what's the date you're going to have these installed by. And then, yeah, my plan was to do another site visit to make sure they were in place. But I don't have a set date yet. Once I have it though, I can send it out to everyone. You guys can join me if you like or are able.
Okay. Yeah, I would say keep us in the loop on that.
Definitely.
Okay.
Okay, that's it though for me for ongoing projects, and then ready for general business.
All right, meeting minutes. One topic to raise, just I think moving forward, and if anyone else who is sitting in on an open meeting law training webinar prior to this evening has a different opinion, feel free to share it, but I got the general impression that we should be documenting our votes as roll call votes as well. So moving forward, we'll do that. I don't think it's a huge issue. So that'll just be a minor change in appearance. But with that said, does anyone accepting Commissioner Buttrick, who is absent during that February 28th meeting, have any comments on the meeting minutes or a motion?
So I got, like, there was no discussion during that meeting about having to have the correct quorum to approve meeting minutes. The emphasis seemed to be on getting minutes just approved and posted as quickly as possible. So I don't know why we do that. I've never heard of anybody else in the entire world do that either.
South Essex Sewerage District Board does it that way. Thanks to Attorney John Darling. However, I think it's
one.
I will say, I think it certainly at least may come out of my personal opinion, which is that I certainly don't think it would be right for me to vote on something that I can't speak to the accuracy of, but that's me and my comfort level. So I would personally recuse myself, but if you feel that you can participate, then I see no reason not to, unless others have concerns with the practice.
Yes, I never understood the difference between this and a ministerial act wherein we sign permits that, we may not.
You can sign a permit because the decision's already been made. This is the making of the decision.
Yeah.
But if you're comfortable, it doesn't.
I would agree with Melissa. It doesn't make sense to me that you would vote to approve that the minutes say what happened at a thing you weren't there to observe happening.
The other board I was on for a while, which was not a public board, the motion was to accept the minutes and not to approve the minutes, actually.
Well, that's a fair point. Do we accept or approve, Cassie?
I thought we were approving.
We do approve, but we could think about accepting instead.
Also, one thing that we've done in the past is, like, if you have time to watch the recording and you say, I watched the recording, then it's like, okay, well, you watched it. You can say if it matches, but I don't know if people actually have the time to do that ever.
I think I've watched 2 recordings. Do you want Cassie to follow up with the city clerk? And you raise a good point, which is we could get very stuck, and there are very specific requirements about timeliness of meeting minute approval / acceptance. Now I don't know what word to use. And we don't want to wind up with meeting minutes that are just lingering out there for whatever reason.
Yeah, we've got some times where we'll have them hanging out there for a couple of weeks or months extra. Not in a while, but and I mean, I think it's worth asking the city clerk just to sort of streamline it, just to see if we're doing it right, or see if we can streamline it or whatever. I mean, I guess
I will raise my hand and say I'm very conservative about some things. So
yep.
If I'm being overly conservative, then I think there's certainly room for a change there.
Well, I can definitely, it's easy to reach out to the clerk, so I can totally do that. And then John will the next meeting.
Perfect.
Cool. Awesome.
All right. Is there a motion regarding the February 28th, 2022 meeting minutes?
I will motion to accept the February 28th, 2022 meeting minutes.
I'll second.
All right, roll call vote. August,
Aye.
Busa,
Aye.
Patrick,
Abstain.
Ryan,
Aye.
Whittemore.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next general business item, 476 East Street, possible violation.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys remember, the last meeting we talked about this, it was a complaint that has been received about this property for the drainage structure. And I was looking at it, I was looking at the old file, and the original permit, from 1996 shows that there's wetlands like in and around the whole area. So it's not just, I don't know. I just was worried because there's this vegetation clearing that happened right from the area extending from the road up to the slope, because they have like a little dog leg that attaches to the road. They have two of them, one for the driveway and one for this drainage. And they cleared all the vegetation along that. And I didn't know, is that a violation? Like, because that was going to inform my letter that I sent to them. I was like, this could change what my letter is. But if it's just, we've had other streams that just kind of originate from the mountain and they don't have a wetland at the top of it. Like, is that the situation here? Is delineation too old for me to be saying that there's wetlands here?
I think there's a forested wetland on the slope. I don't think that's changed. I think for the purposes of our assessment, there's precedent that this is a jurisdictional stream, that there's a wetland between that culvert and the drainage easement-y dog leg sort of area. Do we know, like, I guess if managing vegetation is part of the ongoing condition, I could say you could go back to those meeting minutes, possibly.
I did. I don't have the ones from 1996, unfortunately, so I don't have those minutes, but I do have from the original review from the 2013 complaint.
Okay.
And that didn't speak to it.
No, because the issue was not vegetation clearing. It was volume of water or increased frequency of flooding.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It might be neither here nor there if it's not a violation then. Because I don't know if the wetlands extended out, if it just gets super channelized along where the drainage thing is once it's off the slope. Because the original delineation doesn't show that area, oddly enough.
Well, because it was nowhere near where they were doing the work, possibly. My understanding was that area, that swale, was always kind of maintained to convey flow between the yards to the catch basin.
It's very straight. It's like totally straight.
Who knows what it looked like originally before any of those houses were built.
Okay, so it sounds like we're leaning towards probably not a violation. I just was like, I want to double check.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I don't know if others have any recollections or thoughts they would want to share.
I remember just roof leaders, coming down, and I don't know. Don't remember resource area things in particular.
Do you guys want to see a picture real quick of what it just looks like where they did the veg clearing, or?
Sure.
So this is the channel, the tree is right behind me. But it's a lot.
Who took down the trees?
I don't know. This is their property though, the property up here. This is part of the dog leg.
So because there's an upgradient wetland resource area, that's a jurisdictional stream channel. Julie, do you agree?
I think so, yeah.
So then taking down mature trees on the banks of a stream could be problematic.
I would agree.
So Cassie, if you could inquire as to who executed this work.
Okay, I can do that. Okay, cool. Thank you. This is helpful for me.
No, thank you. The photo was very helpful. I did not have a recollection of what the nature of the vegetation was in that area. Certainly did not expect large diameter trees to be, at least for this area, large diameter trees to be taken down.
Okay.
When did our tree cutting policy thing go into effect?
Yeah.
Or
It's too yeah. Anyway,
Moving
Cassie's
right
gonna
along.
follow up on that. Are we ready for the next item?
I know if you guys are.
Conflict of interest, open meeting law training. Cassie has sent out a bunch of information. I think we're all chipping away at it as we have the availability to.
I really appreciate it. A lot of people have taken the training already. It's awesome. I've got, and just to make sure I didn't miss anyone, I've Dan, Melissa, Deb, and Mike, you all finished the open meeting training. And then for everyone else's information, when you get, what will happen, it's 90 minutes long. What will happen is that you'll get an email that says, you attended the training, good job. And then what we want you to do, or what Lindsay Mailer needs you to do, is forward the email directly to her. It has to come from you. I guess it can't come from me. Yeah, and Melissa, I know you got that special little one. I think you need to send it to her directly yourself, unfortunately.
I will do that right now. If you don't get the email automatically, which I didn't, you have to email the Attorney General's office.
Yep, and Deb snagged the contact information, so I have it. If that happens to anyone, I can send it to you really easily. And so that's that one.
So who are we sending it to? I thought it was you. I don't think I sent it to anybody else.
I know, and I just emailed you today, Dan, so it's like, I just figured it all out today. But if you just forward it to Lindsay Mailer, and the email I sent you should have her, and it's also in this ongoing project document. But yeah, so hopefully once you send it along, she'll be good to go. And then there's a lot more, for those of you who haven't taken the training yet, they posted a ton more of training opportunities. They're all during the day. There's not any evening ones like there was before. So if you go on the ongoing document update, you'll see them all listed there, or you can reach out to me about them too. But
And I will say, perhaps it was just the session that I attended, but it was done in about an hour. They didn't take the full hour and a half, but that could just be that people didn't ask a lot of very specific questions.
nice.
Yeah, it was about an hour, except I was in Dan's session and he kept asking questions.
Whoa. Okay, the only other training then.
He started smiling.
The only other one is the conflict of interest training. And that one is where you just need to email me that statement. And I've gotten that from Deb, Mike, Jay, and Julie. So anyone else, you just send it to me and then.
When did you send that?
Deb, Mike, Jay, and Julia. Oh, you got one of the consultants. You got one.
And that one, I can send it again. It's
Can
in.
you
like-
resend that to
Yeah,
those
definitely.
of us who are delinquent?
I missed that one too, I guess.
It's annoying because you have to like type it all out again or download the PDF and then do like the fill-in thing. So, but you just have to, it's just one thing saying that you read it and you understand. So yeah, I can send that out again.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, and then if there's no other questions about that, that was it. I don't have anything else. So unless anyone else has
Alright.
anything else.
We have nothing else on our agenda. All right, with that, at 7:29. would
Motion
anyone
to
care-
adjourn.
I'll second.
Third,
Roll call vote, August,
I,
Yusa,
Aye.
Buttrick,
Hi.
Ryan,
Aye.
Whittemore.
I.
Motion carries. Thank you all. See you on March 28th.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
thank you.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.